Howdy. Today on Between the Bears and the Bulls podcast, we are joined by Justin Anderson. Justin is a serial entrepreneur, founder of Bel Air Ranch Seasoning, and a passionate community advocate right here in Fort Worth. From creating hit consumer products out of his own apartment to landing on shelves across the country, Justin brings creativity, hustle, and authentic Texan flavor to everything he touches. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship, building memorable brands, community involvement, and what's next on his ambitious journey. Thanks for being here and enjoy the show. Justin, welcome to Between the Bears and the Bulls, man. I'm so glad you're here.
Such a pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Christopher.
This is going to be so much fun. I don't know I don't know how I'm going to keep a straight face throughout this entire conversation. It's going to be tough because we've known each other for how long?
At least 15 years.
At least 15 years, yeah. Because you graduated TCU when?
In 2009.
Okay, in 2009.
Usually I cough when I say that.
Exactly. Yeah, so, man, we've got so much to cover today. So you are the founder of Bel Air Ranch Herb, and Spice. Yes, exactly. And so I'm excited to talk a little bit about that. I'm excited to talk about your journey. So let's start from the beginning, okay? So tell me a little bit about like how you started becoming an entrepreneur, right? So where did it begin? Because now you have this very successful, herb and spice company. How did you start and why did you start?
Well, Christopher, it all started in high school. Actually, I had a bad experience with granola. Okay.
What does that mean exactly?
Back up on spices. We're going back to granola.
We're going to granola.
Yeah,
okay. Did you choke on a piece of granola?
Well, I had braces, and I had broken a bracket off my braces from eating crunchy granola. And so I had come up with a recipe for a gently baked granola that essentially was the consistency of like a fresh baked oatmeal cookie.
Yeah.
And I brought it on a Boy Scout camp out. I'm an Eagle Scout.
Yes.
And on a Friday night, it was meant to be eaten for breakfast the next morning, but all my scouting friends ate it that night. So they snacked on my original product there that night before it was supposed to be eaten. So the whole goal was to see if they, liked it and, hey, would you get your parents to buy this if it was for sale?
Yeah.
And so got a lot of positive feedback. And from there, I started my first consumer products brand, which was Anderson Trail Premium Soft Granola.
And how did you start this? So, I'm thinking to myself, are you a chef? Have you always been a chef?
I've always loved to cook.
Okay.
My mom taught me how to cook at a young age.
Okay.
And I'm part Puerto Rican, part Cajun French. So good food is just running through my veins.
Okay.
And then I also loved watching Food Network. And like some of my culinary heroes are Justin Wilson, Emeril, Martha Stewart, Ina, you name it. And so I would watch those shows religiously after school and just love the challenge of imagining something delicious to eat and to make, and then going through the process of researching how to do it, and then that whole trial and error of following a recipe and seeing what comes out on the other end. And so,
how are you then when you invent something, because you invented this? There was not granola that was...
Yeah, all the granola on the market was crunchy. And like the consistency of sawdust, essentially.
So. Yeah, exactly. So you can't really follow a recipe when you're inventing something. So how do you go from, I want to make a soft granola, and I'm just going to start practicing? Where are you practicing? And who's eating these practice, things, right?
You'd be surprised, Christopher. Yeah, so where I got the inspiration specifically for the granola after the mishap with the braces was I had been invited to go on a vacation with my best friend, Spencer Knutson-Simonson, and his mother, Nancy.
Yes.
And we went to this bed and breakfast in Taos, New Mexico.
Okay.
And the reason that Nancy loves this bed and breakfast, it's called Casa Benavides. I actually, for the first time in, it was like 16, 17 years, I went and visited them again last December. And the owner, who's in his 90s now, like I was able to tell him hey, I started this company, and I updated him on the last, since I was last there, and blew this guy's mind. Anyway, the whole reason that Nancy loved this bed and breakfast was they serve this granola there that is not crunchy, and so I had that issue with the braces. Found this granola that I loved, and we were we were in middle school. Spencer and I were allowed to watch the owner of the bed and breakfast make it, but they did not share their recipe.
Okay.
Number one. Okay. And then they didn't let you buy any to take home, which made no sense because this stuff was out of this world. So Nancy actually tried to recreate the recipe, and I worked with her on that. Yeah. And we came up with this blend that actually turned out to be better than
I was going to ask.
But
yes.
At the time, they had these glass jars of granola on the breakfast tables at the bed and breakfast, and you could serve yourself, in a bowl, and we would serve ourselves, and then I would serve a gallon Ziploc bag that was in my lap because I wanted to take some home. Right. I'm willing to buy this from you. Right. You don't want to sell it. So that was the first inspiration to start a food business was from that experience on that trip. And it was actually on the drive back to Houston that Nancy said, if somebody was to make something like this, they'd be rich because all the granola on the market is just so terrible. Right. And so that was like the initial inspiration to do it. Also, Nancy bought Spencer and I this book called How to Be a Teenage Millionaire, which is a guide for if you're a teenager, how to start your first business. Yes. So that's where it all started back in, 2003 was when that all got started.
Since I'm not a teenager anymore, I don't know if I'm allowed to read that book, but can you tell me what's like the main point of that book, right? Because one of the things that I think is always very interesting talking to successful people like yourself and entrepreneurs, it's like, what were the mantras maybe that you learned from that book that said, okay, how am I going to be a successful teenager, millionaire teenager? Was there something there that kind of stood with you?
Well, what was great about that book was that there were stories of other kids that were successful entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And so one of them I actually reached out to. He lived in Denver. I had family that was living in Denver at the time, actually met up with this guy. And so got some inspiration from someone that was actually doing it. And he had a food business as well. Oh, cool. So out of that book, not only learning the basics of what you need to do to start a business, I was inspired by this person's story and then had the chance to meet him as well. And so I think, so just going above and beyond and finding out that from someone who is successful that, yes, you can do it too, that was what provided a lot of inspiration early on.
Well, I can already see, it's the proactive nature that you had. That's what I think ultimately when I do this and I talk to people who are successful, it's that going the extra mile type of thought where you're like, hey, how many people are going to read the book and say, I'm going to reach out to the person in this book and see if they'll meet with me? Very few people, but successful people do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And so that's probably, one of the main rules is just put yourself out there and be proactive, right?
I call it sending a college application. Like when you reach out to someone that, sending out a cold email or what have you, or a call, and you just hope that you have to essentially think that you have to give it your best shot, but then you have to be okay with them not responding.
Yes, exactly.
And then if they don't respond, then you just, find another reason to reach out to them, a couple weeks later or something. So multiple ways to do it, to skin a cat, as they say.
Without a doubt. And I think for, any successful business person, they became very accustomed to hearing the words no. And became very accustomed.
No is very motivating.
It is. I know. I talk about that all the time. I'm like, my God, I heard that early on in my career, a ton. And so, so did you envision? It's always interesting to me because you're an inventor, right? So you really are kind of the brains behind building this snack. But then how do you go from being the inventor and then also have the business mind to say, I'm going to make this a business? Did you bring in somebody to do that aspect? Or were you like, you know what? I'm not only the inventor, I can be the business person too to run this show.
Yeah. So for the first product, I was doing it all.
Yeah.
I got a $500 loan from my grandmother to start the business. That transitioned into zero interest credit card that my grandmother co-signed
Yes.
on. And as far as how I got into my first store, I was actually shopping at Central Market in Houston, where I grew up, and met someone who, Dana, who worked in this lovely lady named Dana who worked in the healthy living department. And I was telling her I was looking for a specific ingredient. At this point, I was doing research and development for the product, as far as how do I take this recipe that I created and how do we turn this into an actual product? You know, you can't essentially, you're not able to use the same ingredients on a food product that you are with something that you're going to make at home.
Right.
So how do you commercialize this recipe and turn it into a formula that can be scaled? And so Dana was so helpful, and I told her that I would love to get it in the store here at Central Market, and she connected me with the specialty foods director there, FB, who I ended up meeting for lunch, and I told him what I was all about and what I was trying to do. And FB actually connected me with the buyer at Central Market, and he got the new vendor paperwork for me to read, which was like this thick, and I had to get $3 million of product liability insurance.
Wow.
And I'm in high school at the time. And essentially that document gave me a set of very clear goals to strive to achieve. And about over the next year, it took me about that long to get a nutrition fact panel for the product and get labels and packaging and find a commercial kitchen to make it in.
Yeah.
And so that was the initial goal was, hey, everybody's telling me that this is the best granola they've ever had.
Yeah.
If it really is, and they're not just
Saying
being
that.
really nice, then Central Market would want it because
Right.
Central Market only sells the best food. So that was my initial challenge. And right before I graduated from high school in 2005, I got into Central Market.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome. And I can say from experience, because I remember eating Woats because you were so nice to give me a couple
before,
bags, this was, obviously before.
And I think when we originally met in 2010,
yes,
I spoke at
you did
for a group that you were involved with. And, and I was talking about Anderson Trail. So
yes.
It was Anderson Trail first.
That's right.
And then,
all right. Yeah.
Then came Woats a couple years after that.
Yeah.
So.
Gosh, man, you've got so many different things going. And so, all right, then how do you go, obviously very successful and getting in Central Market. Were you in other stores as well, not just Central Market? You were.
So for Anderson Trail, I built that brand throughout college at TCU.
Yes.
In stores in the Southwest.
Yes.
So it was in Whole Foods. Gosh, it was in Kroger, Texas.
Okay.
I believe we were in Sprouts with it as well. But essentially stores in the southwestern United States.
Okay.
Got it into several hundred stores at that time. And then I got to a point after I graduated from TCU where I knew I needed to reinvent the product and make it, turn it more into a healthy, indulgent snack, which is the point that I brought in a new partner, Bill Schneider, who was an M&A at Frito-Lay, and he had led the acquisitions of Stacy's Pita Chips and Sauber Hummus for them. And he was looking to do something entrepreneurial. So we partnered up. He provided some capital, and we developed this snack brand called Woats Oat Snack together, which we launched back in the spring of 2013.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, and that's the one that I remember.
So Woats was, of the three, that's been the most commercially successful. Had that in over 8,500 points of distribution, including Target, Walmart, had it on air on Home Shopping Network during the pandemic.
Wow.
Sold it in Army Air Force bases across the world.
Did you really?
Yeah, which that's an interesting business model there because essentially, so it's called the U.S. Army Air Force Exchange, and that program gets subsidized by the government to provide food and products to our servicemen and women across the world at the same price that they would pay if they were getting it at their local store. So,
oh wow,
you're shipping to a port and they're throwing it on a boat or on a plane,
right?
And they're shipping it across the globe, and that cost gets subsidized by the government so that
they can
get it at the same price that they would at their local store.
So Woats was a global brand, is what you're telling me.
Woats was global.
You were global. Okay, so then talk about the transition, because Woats is not around anymore. Is that?
Yeah, so ended up building Woats for several years, and then just got to a point right before the pandemic started where we were trying to raise capital, and we just got to a point where we had run out of working capital. We were building this brand off of our healthy margin that we established for the product, and the business was growing so quickly that we just could not keep up with working capital needs at that point where we were needing to expand quicker than we had the capital for. So worked for about a year to raise capital, and essentially we just, because we were running into working capital challenges, that equated into lower sales. And when you're meeting with investors, as we know, they're looking for a reason to tell you no.
Right.
So when they see reductions in your revenue due to working capital, that's what we were dealing with at the time.
Gotcha.
So
it transitioned though.
Well, we ended up. Well, what we did with Woats is we licensed the brand out.
Okay.
And it was being made for a few years. After that, got an opportunity with Home Shopping Network after this transition, and during the pandemic, I was selling Woats out of my kitchen in downtown Fort Worth on Skype on HSN. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there was a host.
So you're a movie star too, right? Too. Is that,
I'm passionate about media and good food, Christopher. What can I say?
I love it.
So that's really where I got the bug to make cooking videos, was having to invest in all of this equipment and lighting for the HSN deal.
That's so cool.
So how that worked is I was on Skype, and there was an HSN host in their studio in St. Petersburg, Florida, who had...
Hey, we know about St. Petersburg, Florida. That's where Raymond James is headquartered.
Oh, my gosh.
You know?
There we go.
Exactly. I didn't realize
so
you've
been.
over there. Yeah, exactly.
Well, now, sadly, they actually just closed. They just closed their production studio
You're
there.
kidding me.
Because they wrapped it into QVC in New Jersey.
Okay.
So it was... So I was actually on HSN with Anderson Trail.
Yes.
Back in like 2009, and then also with Woats. And so going out there to St. Petersburg was a treat. And so there was a host over there that had all my product, and it was all styled beautifully. And they were asking me questions, and I was back at home, with my AirPod, and had my setup of Woats. So it was a cool back and forth, and it was all live on national television.
That's so much fun.
It was a really great experience.
Okay, so now talk about, because I started here, and we see a few of these herbs and spices right in front of us, but. So you went from that, and then you started Bel Air Ranch. So it feels very different, right? To go from granola or soft granola to a spice. How'd you do that? Yeah,
so during the pandemic, I, like everybody else in the world, was cooking a lot. And I was becoming frustrated with going through the spices that I had liked, and they were gone, and I couldn't get them anymore. And so I was reaching in the back of my pantry, and I was coming across these spice blends that were 3-4 years out of date in a bottle. And I was also frustrated with the notorious spices catch-all that you see on the back of a spice bottle, which that's a way for companies to hide what is in their product. And I guess they look at it as a way to keep secret what their blend is, but I don't believe in that. On all of the Bel Air Ranch products, I list out exactly what's in it, because I'm very proud of the ingredients that I use, and I'm buying the highest quality herbs and spices. And I want people to know what it is. So anyway, and then also there's a lot of preservatives and natural flavors, and even seed oil. Like there's powdered canola oil in a lot of spice blends as well. So yeah, if you look at that ingredient listing, so there's a lot of filler.
Right.
And I wanted to create something that is pure, high quality herbs and spices, and that easily elevated the flavor of whatever you're cooking for someone that doesn't know how to cook, or you're just starting, or if you're a pro at home. want to make it easy for you to make a delicious dinner. And so that's essentially what the idea was when I got started. And it started with Bel Air Ranch, which my original blend, which has purple shallot, green peppercorn, a smoky Korean red pepper. These are ingredients that you're not going to find in any other blend. Purple shallots, if you went to Central Market, those are $44 a pound. Oh, excuse me. The green peppercorn's $44 a pound.
Oh my
Purple
God.
shallots are like $20 a pound. So if you were to buy them retail, so they're very high quality, and I package it in the bag there to essentially. I mean, I think that's a beautiful way to package that product, and it's different. It's not like a spice bottle that sits in your pantry for years that you're going to throw away.
Right.
With Bel Air Ranch, if you're a family of 4, you'll probably use this in 3 or 4, dinners that you'll make, and then you've got to buy another one, which, it's got a high turnover, and that's another reason why it's been so successful. But on the other hand, a bottle is pretty expensive. Like, you have to buy the bottle, you have to buy the little shaker top, you've got to buy the closure top as well, and then you have to seal it in some way. And so I just was more interested in putting most of my cost of goods budget into the ingredients so that the customer can get the best product possible.
And so Central Market,
so some advice that I got early on from my mentor, Clayton Christopher, who started Sweet Leaf Tea, Deep Eddy Vodka.
Okay.
Then he went into investing. Clayton told me when I was getting started to go narrow and deep with your distribution. And so that was something that Bill and I had intended with Woats, but the demand from retail was such that we were being asked to get into Target and Walmart and these national players, and we got pretty wide and pretty thin pretty quickly with Woats. And that was one issue with that brand, was not being able to catch up with the marketing side of the distribution that we were lucky to get. And so with Bel Air Ranch, I decided to take that advice from Clayton, and I started out with one product. That was the challenge to myself from the beginning 3.5 years ago, was make a living off of one product in 10 stores. So I set out to build a brand at Central Market specifically. I partnered with the meat department at Central Market. So I'm not, you cannot find Bel Air Ranch on the spice aisle over there. It's in the meat department actually. And
Very cool.
And I'm the only Texas-made seasoning brand there in the meat department.
No way.
And so that's another thing that sets it apart, is that it's right next to where you're getting what you're most likely going to put it on, which, is a great thing. So, like, if you're familiar with Central Market's meat department, everybody has to grab a ticket. Right. And my display is right behind the ticket machine.
Imagine,
so while you're waiting for your number to be called, you're looking at Bel Air Ranch.
That's awesome. So you talked a little bit about the popularity of things. So, and then you talked a little bit about the different types of media and other things. Hey, don't worry, it's all good. It's just water.
That's
it's not deep.
I got a little excited over here.
So, tell me a little bit about your experience with Martha Stewart. How did this all happen? Because when I said you're a movie star, you've been on TV quite a bit. So where did that begin? How did that happen?
Well, with Martha's been a big inspiration to me since I was little. Yeah. Would watch her show, saw her at Kmart.
You saw her at Kmart?
Well, I mean, she had product. When she had product at Kmart. I
was like, Martha Stewart was walking around Kmart's back in the day? Okay.
Essentially. No, her face was. But with Martha, back in 2022, Martha was having a tag sale. She was wanting to clear out some of the things that she had collected over the years. Okay. And I was actually out of the country. I was in Paris on a little vacation at the time, and I wasn't on social media very much that week, but I had checked Instagram. I saw Martha talking about this tag sale that she was having that weekend, and I was planning on going back home that weekend as well. And so I checked the tickets, and they were sold out, of course.
Yeah, that's smart.
And then the next morning I checked again and they had released more tickets. I bought it immediately. And then I figured out how I was going to go to New York instead of DFW Airport on the way back from overseas. And so made that work out. I have family in Brooklyn. I was able to stay with them.
Yeah.
First time seeing them since the pandemic, so that was really nice. But yeah, I went over to Martha's house. And she had this huge tag sale where it was like over 10,000 items that she was selling. And it was a fundraiser. All the proceeds were going to she has the Martha Stewart Center for Aging at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. And so all the proceeds from this tag sale were going to this charitable cause that's close to her heart. And so I went on day 2 of the 2-day tag sale, and I had heard when I got there, the ticket was for right when it opened, which was nice because with any garage sale or tag sale or estate sale, if you're not there on the first day, you at least want to be there when it opens to see because that's when there will be the best stuff. And usually on Sunday they discount everything because they're just trying to make it all disappear.
Right.
And so when I walked in, I had asked this guy that was working it. I said, "Hey, what's the deal with all this?" And because I wanted to get the lowdown.
Yeah, of course.
What should I be looking out for? And what he told me was the day before they had sold out of 2 days worth of stuff on day 1.
Oh, God.
So that night, overnight, they were going through all of Martha's things, and they were just looking for whatever she would allow them.
Yeah.
And some of it she didn't even know about that they were putting out, because you can't have a full day sale with little to no inventory. So I was there to look for dinnerware and, interesting cooking utensils, things that I could use in my cooking videos that I make. And so ended up buying all of her drabware, which I was into drabware at the time. It's a type of dinnerware that's off-white. It's kind of like a clay / like a grayish clay color that ranges in its shades. But anyway, Martha was a big collector of drabware. So I bought a set of that and then found some really cool utensils and some really old silver knives that are really neat, and got some platters as well. But I thought I was done for the day. After I had purchased all that stuff, was getting close to my budget that I had given myself. And then I went over to the furniture area, and I found these chairs that we were just having a conversation about chairs off camera. But speaking of chairs, I found these chairs that I had actually had a history with Martha specifically. And so back in 2014, Martha was having this event called the American Made Summit, where she had American makers at her beautiful offices in New York. And they had selected a few people to have lunch with her that day. And so I was surprised that I was one of the people they selected.
That's so awesome.
And my goal was to sit next to Martha. So we walked into this room, and there were 3 tables set up. And I was trying to figure out where she was going to sit. Because which one of the 3 tables? It was like musical chairs. But how do I not make this look awkward? So ended up landing. So I saw where she put down her stuff, and then I sat next to her. But these chairs that I found at the tag sale were the ones that we sat on at her office that day. And we had lunch in her personal office.
Really?
Yeah, they had reconfigured it to have a lunch there. But it was her personal office in her headquarter building there in New York. So as soon as I saw those chairs, I immediately knew where they were from. And I don't think no one the day before had figured that out, apparently. But I bought those 2 chairs, and I was then interviewed by ABC, who was there filming a special on this tag sale. And so I was able to tell them the story of how Martha and I had lunch on these chairs. But then the cool thing is that on the bottom of the chair, there's a stamp that says personal property of Martha Stewart.
No way. That's so cool. That is so cool. But now it should be personal property of
I've stamped over it.
Okay. I was gonna say.
I've cut some white out.
But you know what I love that you said there? So I'm thinking to myself, once again, going back to your mindset, right, of successful people and what they're doing. When you were in 2014, right, so
Yeah.
You said that you were looking through and looking at all the tables to determine where Martha was going to sit, because you had to put yourself in the position in order to be the one that was sitting right next to her. So it's like, once again, it's that mindset where you were like, you were determined to do something, you had to figure out the way you were going to do it, and you started to assess, and then you jump for it. I honestly think that that is so much of what being a successful business person is, right? Is having to survey the land. Things don't just happen by chance, even though they feel like they do.
Yeah.
But you've got to put yourself in a position to where it seems like chance just happened, but you were well calculated on how it was. And yes, there was still some luck probably involved as well, but you put in the effort of saying...
Oh, I was at the front of the line. But then again, there were probably about 20 people that they had selected. And in my mind, if I wasn't going to sit next to her, what's the point?
What's the point? Exactly.
Like, I'm going to do it all the way or go home.
I also think it's that mindset too, and I feel like that's why we get along so well, is that I don't mind putting myself in a position, especially early on.
And it does feel uncomfortable.
Of course it does.
You don't want to seem like that person, but people probably won't think that.
Right, exactly.
And it's probably all in your head, but you have to put yourself out there.
I remember I would go into...
Because you have to be okay with it not working out.
Exactly,
From what we talked about reaching out to people.
Without a doubt. I remember thinking early on in my career, I'd go to these different happy hours and things like that, and you'd always see these groups of people who you're like, oh, I'd really like to know who they are, but I don't. They look way too important for me to go talk to.
They're busy talking to someone.
Yeah, they're busy talking to somebody. And then I realized I started putting myself in a position where I would go out of my way I would look for the most intimidating group of people when I'd walk into a room, and then I would immediately go over there and you just put your hand out and say, I'm Justin Anderson, I'm Christopher Beavers, and you just start the conversation. And then I always tell people, if you act as if you were supposed to be a part of that conversation, it's amazing how people just assume then that you're supposed to be there, Exactly. And there's not that awkwardness that you fear. Right. So I noticed when you were talking about that in Martha's deal, it's like, hey, put yourself in the situation. You never know what's going to come from it,
Exactly.
Have you put yourself in what's the craziest, something tells me you probably have interesting PR stunts that you've done.
Nothing's a stunt.
No, it's always well calculated. That is very true.
It's all real.
Exactly. So tell me, what's the craziest PR thing that you've successfully done where you've maybe advertised one of your previous snacks, or have you done anything that is that stands
all right.
out?
So with Woats, there was around the time that we had gotten into Target, which was our initial biggest distribution that we got with Woats nationally. We were on this end cap at Target in like 1,200 stores. And this was at the time when Vine was huge. Thank you, Elon Musk. Elon, if you're watching this, because I had just saw that he was bringing Vine back.
Yes, yeah.
But he's also, he found a hard drive.
Yes.
They're always finding hard drives. But he found a server that had content. And so apparently they're going to be restoring this Vine content. So people are going to be able to see some of their classic Vine videos now.
Oh, wow.
That was like over the weekend. Anyway, there was this really famous Vine personality that had made a couple of videos using Drake's song where he says, running through the six with my woes, but it sounds like he's saying Woats.
Right.
People thought he was saying Woats.
Right.
The way he inflects on the lyrics. And so anyway, we had like millions of views on these Vine videos tying Drake to Woats.
That's so good.
And so that fall at ACL, Drake was one of the headliners. And I was looking for a way to get in front of Drake. All right. So, all right. Over the summer, I reached out to C3 Presents, which is the company that puts on Lollapalooza and ACL.
Austin City.
And sent them a really nice care package and told them I was interested in talking about a sponsorship. So my business partners, they were open to pursuing something with that to see if we could get into the VIP area or somehow get the product to Drake as an activation. And so met with C3. They said, hey, you want to go check out Lollapalooza? I'm like, okay. So that was 10 years ago now. Gosh, Paul McCartney was a headliner. So I went to Chicago, which August is the best time to be in Chicago. And it's going on right now. But got a chance to go to the VIP section at Lollapalooza and check out all these amazing performances because they wanted me to experience, what that was like. And then on the ACL side of things, so we were like getting ready to make this investment to sponsor the event. And then kind of like at the last minute, they said, hey, you know what? ACL, it's a totally different layout from Lollapalooza. It's a much smaller space and it's not laid out exactly the same. So we don't want to, essentially they said, we don't want to take your money this year. Like we'd rather you come check it out and see the difference between Lollapalooza and ACL. And I said, okay, great. And they're like, how many tickets do you want? So let me see how big of a crew I can get together. So I think I asked for 6. And I went over there. And so the thing about ACL is that it's a cultural thing there where you can bring a flag so that you and your tribe, if you lose your tribe that you're there with, they can find you because you've got your flag. So I found out what the maximum limitations of the flag were. We went to Home Depot. I got some PVC pipe and some sheets. And then my good friend Camille Carlisle, who I was working with at the time to do all of our social media marketing, her brother is an artist, and specifically he did like graffiti style art.
Oh, cool.
So we got her brother to spray paint on the sheets with my Woats.
Oh my God.
Okay. And we made 2 banners as I don't know, 10 feet tall. Okay. And then using king size flat sheets. So we bring these banners into ACL. And then at Drake's set, so this was at the time, they were still doing the 2-weekend deal. This was the second weekend. And we spread ourselves out a little bit. We got as close to the stage as possible. And then during that song, we raised up the banner, spread it out. So it took 2 people to hold each banner. And unmistakable, like people had banners, but they didn't have that. And so at the end of the song, Drake says, with my Woats, I see y'all. So that cost me probably less than $100 of materials. Insane. And then we were there enjoying ACL, and then it was just the hotel. So long story short, didn't have to sponsor anything. But we did have a genuine interest in doing that. I don't think that they got that we were trying to do it specifically for Drake. How amazing. There's many ways to skin a cat, Christopher.
The creativity that you have is unmatched, because I know I could sit here and go through all of those type of incidences, because that's just one of probably many in your career path that you've taken. But I love your mindset.
Creative.
I love your mindset where you're
get creative and don't be afraid to do the work.
Exactly.
That's what it comes
and
down
just do
to.
it. And how hard was it to get these, that banner and those sheets?
That was easy.
Okay, so that it wasn't
it was more coming up with the plan, like knowing that, now we have an opportunity to actually try to do something. And we went into it not knowing if anything would happen, but then he ends up, shouting it out. And
which is unbelievable.
We had a PR firm we were working with at the time, so that, like, we didn't get a video of that. We were, you're holding a thing, you're trying to, people are mad behind you, and you're trying to hold this big. So, we did get video, but at that, we didn't know if he was going to say it, when that was going to happen. So we didn't actually get video of that, but we got video of the sign during the song, and there were 80,000 people there. So it was cause to do a press release, and we got some press out of it, and it was great. So,
well, this makes a lot of sense why you were awarded. So you were under 30 entrepreneur, top 100 entrepreneurs in America. Is that?
Yeah, I was awarded this what you just said. It was through Kauffman Foundation and Startup America.
So awesome, man.
And I got this award at the White House back in 2011.
So cool. So cool. So you got to go to the White House. Did you bring some snacks when you were there too? You know?
I did.
Okay, of course.
I got it through Secret Service.
Okay.
But
Okay.
on another a couple of years after that, so I had stayed in touch with the person at the White House that had set this up. And there was an opportunity to meet President Obama in Austin. And so
in Austin?
He was visiting he was visiting somewhere in Austin, a business in Austin, and I didn't have that much notice, but thankfully I had already made this for the previous deal, but this is still Anderson Trail days. So I had actually come up with a custom 2-ounce bag. I mean, it was essentially the size of Bel Air Ranch. But imagine that, but Anderson Trail, but I did it in the color scheme of Air Force One.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so if you're familiar with, Air Force One M&Ms, like every president since Reagan has had a custom box of M&Ms that's essentially, it's a white box with the presidential seal, and it's their signature in gold.
I didn't know this.
And so, so if you get on Air Force One or, know someone that has, they usually like hand out all these boxes of M&Ms. And with the First Lady's health initiative for kids, like I thought, okay, screw the M&Ms. We need some granola instead of the M&Ms.
Of course.
So I used my chance of meeting Obama to pitch him on putting my product on Air Force One.
That is so great.
Because when you've got 45 seconds with the most powerful man in the world, it's not just, hi, how are you? Like you might as well try to sell him something.
Absolutely.
And he said, well, thank you. We'll take a look at it.
You shot your shot, man. That is so awesome. That is. See, I know, and that was just. You have stories like that
it's
are probably
fun.
That is. It's more than fun. It's who you are, which is what's so cool. Is that mind of an entrepreneur, and it's that idea of that. Nobody can really tell you no. You're going to figure out a way to ultimately.
Oh, they can.
Yeah, they can tell you no, but
once.
What?
No means yes. Okay, Christopher.
Oh my God. All right, so let me switch gears just for a second here and talk, because you are so involved in the community here in Fort Worth. So we obviously know each other through the Clyburn. We've seen each other a lot through that. I know you're also involved with TCU's Young Alumni Board as well, Best Buddies International.
Yes.
Why is it important to you to be involved in the community here in Fort Worth?
This is my home, and I love a good party. But
I can't imagine you like a good party. This is surprising to me. You seem so reserved,
What I've learned about Fort Worth after living in Houston is that you kind of have to know where the party's at.
Yeah.
And if there is not one, you have to create your own. So I've been fortunate to get involved with different organizations in Fort Worth, and there's a big consumer products entrepreneur community out of Dallas that does events pretty often. And here in Fort Worth, I'd say it's more arts driven in Fort Worth. Okay. It's the Clyburn.
Yeah.
I go to a lot of art openings.
Okay.
And I'll get invited to the, to a gala here and there.
Yeah.
Which are fun. And but yeah, I mean, I think it's important to put yourself out there, and it's just like, reaching out to someone that you've never spoken to, going to an event, like you never know who you're going to meet.
Right.
And you'll see people you'll see people that you want to know, and then you'll meet people that you never, thought you'd meet that happen to be there. So I think it's important to put yourself out there. And actually Martha Stewart said, you just have to show up.
Yeah.
Because if you don't show up, like you don't
forget,
you don't exist. You gotta just show up.
That's so good, because it seems these kind of things that create success seem so basic and simple, right? I mean, just showing up, but how many people don't do that? Because you can come up with an excuse for everything, right? I mean, it's like, I'm exhausted.
At the end of the day, like you can easily say, oh,
forget it.
I'll go to the next one.
It's the next one. It's the next one. That's why. So I adopted this philosophy of being a yes man, like early on in my career. Have you ever seen the movie with Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
The Yes Man, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like this idea that every opportunity that comes around, that if you say yes to, you're going to be open to so many more opportunities than you were before.
Exactly.
And at least in business, it can get you in trouble sometimes too, But the idea is you got to have that open mindset of,
right.
okay, what's the next opportunity for you? So talk to me about what's in the future, right? So you've obviously have a very successful brand in Bel Air Ranch. Where does that go? Do you have some new ideas that are coming out? What does it look like for you and your company moving forward?
Yeah, so with Bel Air Ranch, up until last fall, I just had one item, which was the original Bel Air Ranch blend there. And then last fall, I launched 6 new everyday items. And then additionally, the seasonal Hatch blend for Central Market's Hatch Chili Festival. And so the big thing that's changed since then is up until launching the new items, I had been delivering Bel Air Ranch myself to the 10 Central Markets. And so in DFW, that meant regular visits, building the relationships with the meat department teams across DFW. And then on some occasions, I would go and visit all the South stores. Like if there was a deadline for a delivery, I would need to do a run between Austin and Houston and hit all that by 2:30 in the afternoon. I have a turkey brine kit that I do for the holidays, and the last 2 years I had to do that route of hitting it by the deadline. So that's quite a fun thing. But essentially, what's changed since I've launched these new items is I have transitioned from delivering the product myself to now Bel Air Ranch is available, the full line, through H-E-B's warehouse. And so H-E-B's warehouse is now delivering the product. We actually just shipped the first Bel Air Ranch order last week to their warehouse. So really, I was in the delivery business in addition to manufacturing and marketing. I was the delivery guy up until last week when we shipped the first pallet of Bel Air Ranch to the H-E-B warehouse. So now everything is being delivered to Central Market that way, which frees up time for me to focus on what I am truly passionate about, and that is creating fun media. So I will be making more cooking videos and content, and that's one thing that's an important way to build the brand. And then you just never know who's going to see that, or where that'll end up. But so for the future with Bel Air Ranch, I see slowly but surely growing and expanding the brand into strategic retailers. It'll be a natural expansion to grow into H-E-B next. Since I'm in their warehouse.
Exactly. It just makes sense.
It's a no-brainer, right?
Exactly.
And then, I had a big meeting a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to say the name of the retailer because I don't know if it's going to happen yet, but you'll be the first to know if it does. But that could be an opportunity to get the product outside of Texas into some stores. And so other than that, my background is retail. And I do a very limited amount of online sales at this point, which if you were to try to buy the product on the website, it'll actually take you to an Etsy page. It's more of it's like I'm checking a box with that. But I know that there is a huge opportunity with direct to consumer. And that's going to take a lot of research and probably hiring someone that can help me with that. But I make the product just down the streets. It's actually made in Arlington, and our manufacturer can do fulfillment. They can do online fulfillment. It's just not something that I've had the time to do yet. So, but speaking of looking into the future, that would be another vertical, is looking into and developing a direct to consumer model with it. It's so easy to ship. And if I'm going to be making consistent evergreen cooking content, you might as well sell it online. So get it on Amazon and all that. So
this is, I want you to know, you've got a magnetic personality. Every time I see you out, there's people always around you just because you're so much fun to be around.
There's people getting away from me.
That is not that's definitely not the case, but it's no doubt that everything that you do is done with success, and you do it with care because you can tell you're really passionate about, which I think that's what kind of drives. I feel like when I talk to people who are like yourself, who are successful, have these ideas, it's this idea that, you know, you truly have this magnetic positivity around you, which creates this opportunity, and you really can't explain it, you know. And I try to live my life that way. Obviously, it's something that I noticed from you. I'll be curious to see how long before you're in the book, and then people start coming to you for advice, like you did whenever you remember. I mean,
yes,
has that happened yet?
Well, I've been in.
You've been mentor,
I've been in
I'm
a couple
sure.
of books.
Yes.
Over the years. But people do reach out.
People that must be so
consistently.
Cool. You being that kid that reached out to that person who was successful.
And I do my best to, help them and
of course
do what I can.
It's awesome, man. Yeah. This was so much fun. Thank you for taking the
Thanks
time.
Thanks for having me.
I can't wait to make sure to try some of these new
you
flavors.
You can eat this as a snack if you are really hungry.
Exactly. Oh man, you're the man. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, Christopher. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. I think the thing that I hope that people get from this, which is why I'm doing this, right, from an education standpoint, is that like successful people have to do things that make themselves or put themselves in uncomfortable positions. Yeah. But so few people, like what you said with Martha, where it's like nobody's showing up anymore.
Exactly.
Like very few people do, and then they want to know, and they're being like, "Oh, Justin's so lucky." I guarantee you, people say that. Oh, he's so lucky.
You just didn't see all the negative stuff.
You didn't see all the stuff that requires that you put in to put yourself in that situation. You know, so this was fabulous, man. I had so much fun doing this.
Thank you.
Very much
I had a
for doing it.
blast.